We are back on MorningLine. Thanks for joining us. Our guest this morning, Abby Rubenfeld, local attorney, I guess local activist as well, looking into the issue of right now a piece of legislation on the governor's desk, which would place limits, that it would allow faith-based adoption agencies to, not adopt out to gay couples or LGBT couples. And he's probably going to sign it, Abby, is what we think. And, it comes down to a matter of whether or not they're receiving federal or state funding, and if they do that, in your mind, well, then you can't place restrictions like this. This you think is a license to allow them to discriminate.
Yes, and it doesn't say LGBT anywhere. They're trying to hide that fact, and by doing that, they're making it more broad. If they say moral convictions or moral beliefs, that they can deny placements, so, that could be other things. You
made a case then, if they have a moral objection in their own minds to biracial marriages, then they may not choose to adopt out to a family like that.
Right, and there's...
Where do you draw the line?
There's constitutional and legal restrictions on doing that, but there are also constitutional and legal restrictions on religious-based discrimination. So these agencies are already protected to the extent they are going to comply with the law, but if they're going to provide their services in an unequal manner, then they can't get state money.
Okay.
I mean, even though, and some people would say, well, there's no constitutional protection, or here in Tennessee, no state protection for discrimination based on sexual orientation. But we do have the 14th Amendment, and we have a similar amendment in the Tennessee Constitution that requires equal treatment under the law. So once the state becomes involved by giving money, the state's involved, and you can't discriminate.
All right, let's go to Cheryl. Cheryl, good morning. Hi, Cheryl.
Good morning, Nick.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good, good. What's on
you have to excuse me. I'm having a major allergy attack.
Oh, okay.
It's Tennessee.
I have a question.
Okay.
Oh gosh. In the LGBT community, I don't understand something. I'm straight, my religion doesn't allow that. What causes people to be LGBT, any one of those things? I don't get it.
Okay, so why does someone choose to be? Well, that's a whole different show. Well, but I mean, you alluded to it earlier. Well, I mean, it's.
I can answer that to the extent that people do not choose to be gay. There's not like a gay gene. There's not any specific one thing. But I think the consensus of science is that you're born that way. Like that's who you are. I'm a lesbian. I didn't choose to be a lesbian. I'm fine that I am. I'm proud that I am. My parents weren't gay. But I think most gay people, particularly most gay people my age, had non-gay parents. So, you don't...
Well, you've seen cases where there's twins that grew up identically.
Right.
And one is and one isn't.
Right.
And here's the other point of it. Things are changing. But going back several years, if it was a choice, why on earth would you make that choice? Do you know what I mean? In terms of the way you're discriminated against in society is what I mean by that.
Exactly.
I mean, why would you make that choice because there are certain hardships that come with it, even though things are changing. So yeah, that's a whole other show to go into more detail, but that is her answer for you there, Cheryl. Let's go next to Matilda. Hi, Matilda.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, what's on your mind?
Well, I think this is not an issue really about being gay per se. I think this is an economic issue. I don't think people understand. Ms. Rubenfeld, you're a lawyer. You see how they make laws these days. There is a lot of money in poverty. And when you get it down to public pay, in the private sector, you can really cash in on that one. In East Tennessee, they have an issue with heterosexual couples selling pornography, making pornography films of their children doing incestuous acts, and they take a lot of them away. They still claim that there's a problem over there, but that to me is like somebody selling cigarettes on the street corner one at a time, because it's a poverty issue. None of these people, these legislatures, work on the issue of poverty that put a lot of these kids in foster care in the first place, or their parents die of overdoses. There's been some money held back from the federal government, and now we're being told that we can spend that money any way we want to. It's kind of funny that this bill came up the first thing off the bat when they opened the legislature. I think they're going to use that money to make people in the private sector more money, and they really don't care about these kids getting placed.
Thank you for your call. I'm not sure I followed her logic through all of that, but I don't know if is there when she talks about monies. I'm not sure. It's just the state money or federal money that goes to them that they could lose potentially.
But I think part of what she's saying is that sometimes there are state subsidies that go along with foster placement or even adoption from the state when the kids that are disabled or that have certain issues. And so there is I think there are problems with people who want to be foster parents or adopt so they can get those subsidies, but that's not a function of sexual orientation. And I suspect that the percentages are maybe the same, or I would guess less, because it's so much harder. Like, gay people have to go to so much more trouble to have a child. But I just don't think that's not based on sexual orientation. People that want to scam the system and make money off of foster placement, there are people out there doing that. She's absolutely right, but that's not a function of sexual orientation, and I don't think that's what this bill is designed to attack, and they could attack that. I mean, that's already wrong to do that. It's fraud, but that's what I think she meant. Okay,
good. Let's go to Greg. Greg, good morning. Hi, Greg.
Hi, this is Carolyn.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Carolyn. I'm sorry. I thought I had a Greg. I lost Greg. He hung up. You're next. Go ahead. I apologize. Okay, good morning.
Oh, that's okay. I just wanted to say I don't understand why that a person says they are born that way. I don't think God created a person that way. And, there's no proof of it. There's no scientific proof that a person is born that way. And another thing, God laid out the plan in the Bible when he created a woman for a man. A child needs both parents. They need a feminine person in their life, and they need a masculine person in their life. And, I just don't get it, why they want to push their way through. Why not, if you're going to be that way, why not just keep it at home? Sex is a thing that's created in the mind. That's the reason that people look at pornography, to get turned on. They create the way they want to be and do in their minds. It's not something that we're born with. So that's my opinion, and I'll let you respond to it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your call. I mean, again, I know you vehemently disagree with everything she said there, but that's what you're up against as to why something like this comes about. She is a constituent of some of these lawmakers that voted for this, and they did it because that's what she wants.
And I respect her views. She's entitled to have them. I think that she is factually wrong. I would ask her, what information she has, what basis she has to say that, because there is no scientific studies that show that being gay or being not gay is a choice. Like, when did you wake up and decide you were heterosexual? I mean, we just are who we are. And, I don't think any of us can know what God was thinking when God created the world or created any of us. Like, I just don't buy that argument. I respect that she believes that and she is entitled to. But I agree. Children need two loving parents, at least two. I mean, I know of kids that have three. My own kids have a third parent, and that's the more parents, the better, in my opinion. The more people that love a child, the better. But the feminine and masculine influence, what about the many, many, many children who have, single moms or single dads, dads that have abandoned their kids? Like, worry about those if children need to have two opposite sex parents. And in some of my cases, custody cases, people will argue about having that kind of influence. You cannot escape in our society masculine and feminine, the traditional kind of family. You cannot escape that influence, even if you try. It's all over. Every ad you see. They're starting to show gay couples on ads, but mostly it's traditional, opposite sex couples. So children are going to get that no matter what. And the point is to have loving parents that are going to treat them well and teach them good values, and that's not based on sexual orientation, being a good parent.
And I wonder if we would have been able to ask her. I mean, there are children that are in foster care that need loving homes. I wonder if in her mind she would prefer to leave them, and foster care does the best they can do, but it's not great, okay? As opposed to going to an adoptive family that maybe happens to be same sex, but is going to love that child and take them out of the foster system. I mean, gosh, to me it just seems...
This is also inconsistent with policy like how our state has operated for many years. The state will place children for adoption and for foster care with gay families. They understand that. I mean, people get trained and get certified to be a foster parent, so presumably they're going to weed out bad parents, but children get placed with them all the time, and they do it just fine. In fact, in the old days, the early days of the AIDS epidemic, the state would place, while they might not place kids in those days with gay families, they would special needs kids like kids with AIDS. Gay people were good enough to take care of the most difficult kinds of placements with the most work. So I think it's all inconsistent, not just with the law, but with facts and with reality.
Take a break on that note. When we come back, our final segment, we can take more phone calls if you have an opinion or a thought or a question. 737-7587, back right after this.